So today we're going to study the pyramids, perhaps the most fascinating structures in all of Egyptology, if not in history itself. It's not because of how they look physically or how they were built, it's because of how they impacted the society, especially in terms of architecture. So today, let's study that impact. So let's start from the very beginning of the timeline of pyramids. So who was the first king to have a pyramid built for himself? His name was King Djoser. So let's look at how the Djoser pyramid was built. The job of constructing this pyramid was given to one of history's most important architects, Imhotep. And Djoser had a reputation in the past. He was known for orders to build some of the most extravagant and innovative building projects. This building was no exception. Imhotep was given this huge responsibility of building something that people had never seen before. At first, he was puzzled upon such a request, but then he realized all he had to do was improvise on what had already been existing. He had to improvise on something called mastabas, or cuboidal bench-shaped tombs. Let's look at how he did that. He realized that if he could stack these mastabas on top of each other, he could create somewhat of a convincing pyramid shape. Upon experimentation, he found out that this was indeed possible. And so he scaled the model and built it at Saqqara. Imhotep was known to be somewhat of a trickster, and this building was no exception. He built a huge wall around it and filled it with 14 doors or entrances. Out of these, 13 were false. Only one actually led to the tomb. And only he knew which one led to the tomb. What is more interesting, however, is its symbolism. When he placed the mastabas and formed the prism, he wanted to depict the advancement of Djoser to the rank of a god. So it was like a hierarchy pyramid through which Djoser had advanced. So the bottom three mastabas represent the three classes in humans, the lowest being lower or poverty class, the middle one being the middle class, and the top one being the upper class. Apart from this, there were three more mastabas on the top, which depicted the three ranks of gods. In spite of it being a huge architectural marvel, Egyptologists have often debated whether to call this a true pyramid or not. Let me explain why. Because this pyramid was built by stacking pre-existing cuboidal tubes upon one another. But it was nothing innovative, and it did not have smooth edges like you'd think when you think of a pyramid. And so it isn't called a true pyramid. And so the first ever true pyramid was the pyramid at Meidum. But let's just quickly take a look at the dynasties to understand what happened. The king named Huni was the last king of the third dynasty. After his untimely death, his son Sniferu took over, and hence began the fourth dynasty. And hence, with the rise of the fourth dynasty, the first golden age of Egyptian architecture had begun. Sniferu, the first architect to build a true pyramid, made certain modifications to Imhotep's design, and he built or attempted to build a pyramid with completely smooth faces. All was not well, however, because a few miscalculations caused a part of the pyramid or the outer casing to be built on loose sand instead of the strong stone. And this caused the outer casing of the pyramid to fall off while the inner casing remained. It was an absolute disaster. Now, usually in such a case, architects would rebuild on the pre-existing structure. But here, we're talking of a pharaoh. He was perhaps filthy rich and did not lack the funds to start all over again. And that is what Sniferu did. He started building a new pyramid. But this too would turn out to be an absolute disaster. Sniferu planned to build this pyramid at an inclination of 55 degrees. However, his junior architects felt that they would fall short of materials, and hence, halfway through the plan, the juniors changed the angle from 55 to 43 degrees, and hence the bottom of this pyramid looks different from the top. Sniferu, however, turned out to be an extremely rational person, and so he did not do anything to his junior architects and others. He did not scold them or anything. Instead, he started building a third pyramid. But finally, this was going to be a massive success. And hence, he built the Red Pyramid in Dahashur. A very often asked question when studying history is why? Why must one study someone else's life? Instances like these are exactly why. His incident, Sniferu's incident, tells us that determination is in fact a practical and a rational quality. That in spite of spending so much effort on two humongous architectural structures, one can still have the courage to pursue and build something that turned out to be the greatest of its generation. Now, after Sniferu's death, his son Khufu would inherit both his wealth and his passion for architecture. And so, following his father's footsteps, in 2550 BCE, he started building a pyramid for himself. He followed his father's procedures and methodologies. But during this time, he made a revolutionary change. He started using hydraulic mechanisms for transportation. And so, he built this massive structure in Giza. And hence, following a long and painful mechanism, the pyramid was completed. It had a base of sides 230 meters with a height of 147. About 25 crore blocks of stone were used to construct it, each weighing over 2.5 tons. Some of them even weighed 50 tons. This is the largest pyramid in all of Giza and in all of history. It was the tallest human-built structure until 1889 when the Eiffel Tower was built. Napoleon, the French military commander, once took an expedition to Egypt. In this, he studied Khufu's pyramid, and from that he concluded that if the blocks used to build these pyramids were used to build a wall around France, that wall would be 10 foot tall and 1 foot wide. That is unimaginably huge. Now, if you've ever seen the pictures of the site of Giza, you've perhaps noticed this man-cat hybrid called the Sphinx. What is that? Why is it there? Let's see. Well, it dates back to Egyptian religious beliefs again. So, Egyptians considered cats to be a symbol of purity, something that could drive away any negative energy. And they felt that tombs, the pyramids, must be protected from all sorts of negative energy to keep the pharaohs happy even after death. And so, they decided that they needed a watchdog, or a watch cat in this case, to guard the pyramids. And hence, they built a human and cat hybrid to overlook the pyramids and protect it from all forms of negative energy. It was built by Khufu's son, Khafre, exactly where his father had built his pyramid, that is, Giza. After Khafre, his son, Menkaure, took over and further refined his ancestors' work in Giza. He started turning it into more of a city than just a burial site. He built shopping complexes, temples, open grounds for children to play, and everything that you'd imagine existed in a city. So, because of the high tourist attraction, because of all of these spots, the site slowly became a holy site for the Egyptians. This is exactly why Giza is referred to as a necropolis, where necro means dead and polis means city, and hence Giza is a city of the dead. It is a city rather than just a burial site. Apart from all of this, they also built underground tunnels, the purpose of which is still unclear. But historians have often theorized that they were built to serve as time capsules. They'd preserve the knowledge of their time and pass it on to future generations. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind is the fact that the Egyptians considered it to be important to have their knowledge stored for the use of future generations. And hence, to store this knowledge, they must have used some language, right? And that language is called hieroglyphics, which will be the topic for our next video. And so now, let's look at today's takeaways. Today, first, we looked at Imhotep's pyramid, which was built out of stacking mastabas on top of each other. Next, we looked at what is a true pyramid. Next, we looked at Sniferu's three pyramids, out of which the third one turned out to be a success. Next, we looked at the pyramids of Sniferu's heirs, built at Giza, that is, the pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkore, out of whom Khafre built the Sphinx, while Menkore built a necropolis. So if you enjoyed the video, then please make sure to like and subscribe and click the bell icon to remain notified. If you know someone who is interested in videos like these, then please do share these videos with them. And I'll see you in the next one.